Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of SAML authentication attack series. We already have covered the basic part of SAML authentication, which includes the SAML authentication workflow. What are the different components such as identity provider and service provider plays role in SAML authentication. In today's video, our focus will be on the attacks part. What are the different types of attacks which we can perform on the SAML authentication. So we will be covering all of the attacks which are mentioned in the basic attack section, which includes arbitrary signature, signature stripping, SAML token replay, and SAML response expiry validation. And most probably we will be covering one of the attack which is mentioned in advanced attack section, which is SAML to SSRF and its approach. So let us continue our discussion, and the first attack that we are covering is arbitrary signature attack. So when we get the SAML response from the identity provider and we decode it, this is how the SAML response would look like. It will be having the signature value attribute, which we have to focus if we talk about arbitrary signature attack or any signature based attack when it comes to SAML authentication. In signature or in arbitrary signature attack, we have to keep the signature value same or as it is, or we have to keep the format of the signature value as it is. For example, if the length of the signature value is 48 characters, then you have to keep the 48 characters, but change some character at random places and change the name ID parameter to some other user ID. For example, if this SAML response was issued by the identity provider for user mayank@test.com, then you have to change the name ID parameter to other user ID like admin@test.com and change some random bits here in the signature value attribute and forward the SAML response to the application provider or service provider. So if the service provider is still accepting this signature value as a valid value and it is providing you the access as admin@test.com, then the application is vulnerable to arbitrary signature attack. Since it is leading to complete authentication bypass, so it would be categorized as a critical vulnerability. Simple and I think very effective attack that you can perform when it comes to SAML authentication. The second attack that we will be talking is signature stripping attack. That is very similar to the first one that we have talked about, that you have to change the name ID parameter to some other user ID and you have to take care of the signature value attribute. The only difference here would be you have to completely remove the signature value attribute from the SAML response and then forward it to the service provider. And if the service provider accepts it, then it will come under the signature stripping attack. The third attack that we are covering from the basic attack section is SAML token replay attack. So when we get the SAML response from the identity provider, as you can see in the step 5, the basic security recommendation would be that the service provider should accept this SAML response only at once. So I cannot use the same SAML response multiple times and get the session cookies from the service provider. If that is happening, even though it is low severity vulnerability, but it is a vulnerability and it will be categorized as a SAML token replay attack. The fourth one was SAML response validation, SAML response expiry validation attack. This is very simple and very straightforward. So in this attack, you have to check the expiry attribute that we already have talked about in the basic part, the first part of this series. And if, for example, if it is mentioned that this SAML response would be valid for 5 minutes, you have to hold the SAML response request. You don't have to forward the SAML response to the service provider until it is getting expired. And once it is getting expired, then forward it and check it if it is still getting accepted by the application provider or service provider. If it is getting accepted, then they are not verifying the expiry attributes which are mentioned in the SAML response. Okay, now let us talk about our final vulnerability, which is listed in advanced attack section, that is SAML to SSRF and its approach. Okay, before continuing this discussion, I want you guys not to take it as a single vulnerability. You can take it as an approach, and you will see a lot of critical and high vulnerabilities will come into your way. Now let us talk about this vulnerability, SAML2 SSRF. So if you are working for a product-based company or even at the consulting side, then you must be having chances to attend the walkthroughs for several applications. So if your application is utilizing SAML authentication, then you have to ask a simple question from the development team in the walkthrough, what is the kind of library or what is the library their application is utilizing in order to parse SAML response that they are getting from the identity provider. If their answer is PySAML2, which is a Python based library, then you can continue this attack. So now we know that the library that they are using to parse the SAML response is PySAML2. We can look out for the vulnerabilities which are associated with this PySAML2 library in the open source. The best way to look for the vulnerabilities is in the official pages of the library or official websites of the library, or either if the library is open source, you can look out on the GitHub as well. So we will look for the GitHub. I will Google PySAML to GitHub, and the first link that will appear in front of me, I will open it. Here is the PySAML to GitHub page, and you will see a lot of documentation around this library on this page. We are currently not interested in the documentation. We are interested in the security vulnerabilities which is affecting my application because I am using this library. So I will just navigate to issue sections. Under the issues, you will see a lot of issues which can be security issues or which cannot be security issues. So mostly if I am the user of this particular library, then if I'm facing any issue, then I will report it under issues. So it might be security issue, but we have to do a little bit filtering here. I will just click on the labels, and then because I'm interested in the security issues, I will be searching for the security keyword here. It can be different for different libraries or different GitHub pages, but in this case I will look for the security keyword. I will click on the security, and there are 3 security vulnerabilities or security issues which has been reported by the community on this particular library. I will open this first link, SSRF, because we are interested in it. And here you can see that there is an SSRF vulnerability possible because of the URI attribute in SAML response. And how can you reproduce it? That is also given, I think, in this documentation. Yeah, it is given. Okay, so there is a reference URI attribute which we already have talked about in the basic video, the part 1 video of SAML authentication attacks. And this attribute value should set to a unique identifier. So instead of unique identifier, when you will be getting the SAML response from the identity provider, you have to append your burp collaborator URL in order to verify whether the vulnerability, SSRF vulnerability exists or not. And then you can perform SSRF in this way. So that is how you can perform this attack. I believe there are some dependencies. Yes. So the PySAML2 version should be 4.5.0 and XMLSec version should be 1.2.25. XMLSec 1 is basically the binary that PySAML2 utilizes in order to perform some activities in the backend. Okay, so that is all I wanted to talk about regarding the SAML vulnerabilities in these videos. In the later videos, we will be covering the advanced text section, maybe one by one, or maybe I will try to cover the whole of the vulnerabilities in one video as